Taurus, you've transformed into a force to be reckoned with. They never anticipated this shift. Do you recall the last time you decided your patience had run its course? The universe holds on to the memories of every moment you silently endured. And now, the light is beginning to shine back on you. Perhaps you don't realize it yet, but you've become a formidable spirit. Not out of harshness, but from a deep wellspring of self-worth. This is precisely what confounds them. Stay with me until the end of this video. I will reveal why they viewed you as merely calm, steady ground, only to discover you are an unshakable mountain. And a mountain doesn't need permission to stand firm. Let's rewind to the moment when everything began to shift. The moment when you, once a patient and dependable Taurus, decided you would no longer tolerate instability. They believed you were still there, steadfast as always, but your heart had ceased waiting for them to change. Those who left you or took you for granted never considered one crucial truth. Taurus also has boundaries. Not boundaries in love, perhaps, but boundaries in tolerance and patience. They never imagined that one day you would stop waiting, stop hoping for consistency, and stop looking their way with that familiar, enduring gaze. Deep down, they thought you would always be their safe harbor, their rock. They assumed your heart was solid, and that you were easy to overlook or bypass. They believed that as long as they returned, you would be there stable and reliable as ever, welcoming them back. But this time, you were no longer anchored there for them. You weren't angry, you weren't loud, you didn't place blame. Instead, you had quietly rebuilt your own world, established your own ground, and that shocked them the most. They might have thought you withdrew due to hurt, but in reality, you withdrew because you had awakened to the value of your own peace. I don't know where you are listening to this, perhaps in your cozy living room, in your car, or while enjoying a quiet moment, but I know one thing for certain. If your heart has ever invested loyalty in someone unworthy, you will resonate with what I'm about to share. This isn't just a video, it's a reflection. I used to be in your shoes, loyal to the point of losing my own footing, staying silent to cling to a crumbling foundation, choosing to endure because I feared change and loss. But one day I realized that if I didn't walk away, I would never reclaim my own solid ground. Taurus, there are silences that signify not surrender, but a sacred grounding. A moment when your soul crosses the threshold between who you were and who you are destined to become. It's the moment you no longer feel the need to explain your need for stability, to seek understanding for your boundaries, or to beg for respect. You've come to understand that those who truly value you would never make you fight for security and peace. Thus, you faded back quietly, steadfastly, but that withdrawal became the loudest wake-up call for those who took your presence for granted. They returned with empty hands, a touch of regret that lacked substance. What did they find? Not you waiting patiently, but a void where your unwavering support used to be, a cool, firm emptiness. You were no longer waiting, no longer trying to build bridges, no longer carrying that familiar, dependable gaze. Instead, you left behind a profound truth. You've learned to create your own security and value yourself. After all, even the strongest foundation can crack if neglected for too long. Some may label your actions as stubbornness, others may perceive them as coldness, but anyone who has not walked through the uncertainty while patiently waiting will never comprehend the courage it takes to choose to stop and stand firm for oneself. You didn't leave to inflict pain. You left to protect your soul and your peace of mind. You might be thinking, I still care about that person, and that's perfectly valid. Genuine affection doesn't vanish just because someone is unworthy or unreliable. However, what's even more essential than affection is the safety and stability you cultivate within yourself, the peace you traded a long, suffering heart to acquire. Sometimes, the kindest act you can perform for yourself is to let go of the one you love, but who consistently brings chaos or disrespect. I know you may have never voiced this to anyone, and perhaps as you hear these words, something within you is shifting, maybe even breaking. But don't worry, that breaking is merely the shedding of an old, worn-out layer, making space for a new, more resilient version of yourself, one that stands strong like the earth after a storm, grounded and vibrant. You don't need to assign blame, for the truth is, no one can return to a place they once destabilized and expect everything to remain unchanged. You've evolved, you've fortified yourself, and that is the most significant gift you can give yourself. They may never comprehend this transformation, but you no longer require their understanding. Today, as you quietly step out of your former role of patient endurance, the universe begins to clear a path for you, not to transform into someone else, but to return to your true, grounded self. No longer the old you, no longer the one who absorbed instability, no longer the one who waited. You are now a beacon of strength, capable of turning patience into profound inner power. You no longer need anyone's validation to recognize your worth, for your mere solid presence commands respect. As you delve deeper into this journey, you will uncover something even more powerful than the act of withdrawing. You will realize that you don't require revenge because you've become something they can no longer shake or control. This marks the inception of a new kind of power, silent, profound, and unshakable. Taurus, you don't need to shout or argue to prove your strength. Your healing journey has always been about returning to your center, embracing stillness and stability, and experiencing rebirth on your own terms. That's why when the Strength card or the Empress card, representing grounded nurturing and stability, appears, I sense you've begun to speak the new language of your soul, a language of self-possession and resilience. You've learned to utilize the endurance you once expended on others to build a solid foundation for yourself and those you truly cherish. You no longer hope that someone will come to provide security. You've become the one who creates that security yourself in the quietest yet most extraordinary way. Perhaps the one who hurt you still believes you are easily swayed, but they don't realize that the very cracks they caused have become the openings through which the light of self-awareness entered, guiding you to your most powerful self. In this journey, you've ceased demanding respect or consistency from those incapable of offering it. Instead, you turned inward, cherished yourself, and listened to the whispers of your own need for peace. I recall a moment in my own life when I sat under a soft light, holding a piece of paper filled with unspoken needs, not meant for anyone else, but for my own understanding. I wrote down my frustrations and watched as they gradually morphed into gratitude. Not because I could forgive immediately, but because I understood that if I couldn't find gratitude, even for the lessons learned from those who hurt me, I would never learn to truly value my own peace. Dear Taurus, you do not seek revenge, nor do you need to. No one can control a soul that has learned to build its own fortress of inner peace. They can't predict how you'll move forward with such quiet determination, nor can they fathom why you remain calm even after they created turmoil. They can't believe that you could stand strong right where they once tried to make you crumble. And so you began to generate your own light, filling the emptiness not with someone new, but with the self-care and love you once forgot to give yourself. You didn't just move on, you moved on with peace. You didn't merely survive, you began to truly thrive on solid ground. Some souls are born with a mission of endurance and building, and Taurus is undoubtedly one of them. You possess the ability to look deeply into instability, not to linger there, but to convert it into lessons, strength, practical wisdom, and a stable presence for others. While others wield power to control, you use steadfastness to liberate yourself. While they employ silence or chaos to inflict harm, you utilize stillness and grounding to heal. Others may hope you will falter, but you have chosen to flourish and stand firm. You no longer require apologies because you have moved too far from the place where their words could even reach you. You stood up, equipped with everything you ever sought from others: patience, kindness, stability, and safety, now sourced from within. You've begun to rewrite your narrative, not with sorrow, but with awakening. I know that at some point, you may have felt overburdened, vulnerable, or dependent on others for stability. But now, take a moment to look again. You are here. You are listening to a video about healing and strength. You are present, not to complain, but to be reminded that you have overcome and rebuilt. You didn't need anyone to fill the void. You transformed it into a well-tended garden, replanting life and order where there was once neglect or devastation. I don't know what you've planted there. A new sense of self-worth, a fulfilling career, a more stable relationship, or simply the realization that you no longer have to beg anyone for consistency or respect. Whatever it is, that place is no longer a wound, but a testament to your resilience and rebirth. I invite you to share something only if you feel ready. Have you ever felt gratitude towards someone who destabilized you because thanks to them, you learned to build your own unshakable foundation and love yourself more? That is a peculiar kind of gratitude from the universe. We endure pain, but then we awaken. We experience loss or instability, but then we find something even more precious: inner security. Dear Taurus, you are not fragile. You are merely learning not to give your loyalty and trust to hands that haven't learned how to hold them steady. They once thought they could return and find you in the same place, waiting patiently, but you are no longer there. You have risen. You have become something they cannot move or control, and that confuses them more than any words of anger ever could. Not because you sought revenge, but because you have become too radiant in your stability, too solid, too whole. Your very presence reflects their inconsistency and shortcomings, and that is the true power of a healed Taurus. In the next section, you will look back at all the past wounds, not with resentment, but with clarity. These wounds were the invisible forces that pushed you to root down deeper so you could learn to stand taller and stronger. You will come to understand this truth. Karma doesn't knock. It observes silently and lets consequences unfold naturally. Dear Taurus, some wounds don't stem from a single betrayal, but from countless small erosions. Each attempt to understand, to accept inconsistency, to offer patience one more time, only to retreat further into yourself, feeling unseen or unvalued. The most painful part is that, in their eyes, perhaps you were perceived as being difficult or too demanding of stability. They might have accused you of being stubborn, resistant to change, or possessive. When you quietly withdrew, they called you cold. When you finally walked away, they labeled you unforgiving. But the truth is, it was never your fault. You were simply trying to maintain your equilibrium, and your need for stability highlighted their lack of it. They left or pushed you away not because you were wrong, but because they lacked the courage or capacity to meet your need for consistency and respect. They weren't strong enough to stand before someone genuine and steady without their own masks or defenses. So they turned away, attempting to pull you into their chaos. But this time, you didn't follow. This time, you stayed grounded. This time, you remained true to your need for peace. And thus, karma, the natural law of consequences, began its work. But remember, karma doesn't knock, it doesn't shout, it doesn't warn. It doesn't come in the form of revenge. It simply stands there in silence, witnessing everything. Karma saw you when you were struggling, trying to maintain composure amidst turmoil. It saw you remain dependable, even when you could have retaliated or created drama. Karma witnessed you choose peace, not because they deserved it, but because you deserve serenity. The Five of Pentacles, representing insecurity, loss, or the Tower, sudden disruption, might appear. And I know you faced instability, not just from someone else, but from the trust you once placed in the permanence or reliability of a situation or person. You didn't collapse from a single blow. You felt worn down because you kept believing, kept investing, kept giving stability, and no one acknowledged the erosion within you. Then one day, you didn't crumble anymore. You awakened. You no longer need their apology, nor do you need them to return, because you've realized they cannot offer the security and respect they've never learned to cultivate themselves. Some endings don't require words. Just the fact that you are still here, still grounded, still kind in your strength, is the lesson they will spend a lifetime trying to learn. You forgive not to grant them peace, but to free yourself from the weight of past disappointments. And Taurus, it is your quiet, unshakable silence that unsettles them most. When you were still trying, still explaining your needs, they felt they had some influence. But when you fell silent and simply stood your ground, they knew you had truly moved on internally. I once read a line that said people fear the most when you're silent and thriving, because at that moment, they realize they no longer have a hold on you. You don't write accusatory letters. You don't send final dramatic messages. You don't post passive-aggressive statuses. You simply withdraw your energy and focus on your own stable world. And that is the most significant statement regarding what they've lost. They used to think you couldn't stand without them, but it turns out you stand even taller and thrive even more when their instability is absent. You walk away without looking back because you understand that the one who needs to apologize or change is not you. I don't know if you've ever forgiven someone without receiving an apology, but if you have, you are operating on a higher level of consciousness, a place where self-respect and inner peace no longer contradict each other, where you don't need to win, only to find stability and contentment. Taurus, if you still carry the question, why didn't they appreciate my loyalty or offer an apology, let me offer you this insight. They are not yet mature enough, or perhaps simply incapable, of grasping how deeply their inconsistency or lack of respect affected you. But that no longer matters, for you don't live awaiting apologies or validation. You live to perfect your own inner sanctuary, and you're doing that splendidly. You heal, you build, you spread quiet kindness and reliability, and you ground the room as you enter. You no longer allow the past to define your worth or shake your foundation. Something extraordinary happens when you cease needing an apology. You begin to express gratitude for the painful experiences that led you to awakening. You start thanking the person or situation that caused instability, because without them, you would never have discovered your true resilience and capacity to build your own security. And you also begin to thank yourself for not giving up on your need for peace. Taurus, I know you don't seek revenge. You've never wanted to harm anyone, but you've grown too strong, too serene, too authentic not because you've changed into someone harsh, but because they were never grounded enough to walk alongside the steady light you carry. That is karma. No revenge needed, just the right moment, and everything reveals its true nature. You will see that what was lost didn't belong in your stable world. What remains is a part of your awakened, self-sufficient soul. Taurus, you've traversed through periods of uncertainty. No one needs to validate that. Your very existence today, standing firm, is proof that stability can always be rebuilt from within. If you're ready to take one more step, not just to heal, but to be truly free and self-sufficient, then the next part will help you grasp a profound truth. They are not angry because you left. They are perhaps envious or unsettled because you no longer need them for your sense of security. There exists a kind of freedom that confuses others. It's not that you walked away, it's that you never looked back for validation. No more clinging to unreliable sources, no more waiting to be acknowledged for your loyalty, and no more requiring them to feel significant or stable. This is what unsettles some more than being left. When you no longer need anyone for your core stability, you cannot be easily controlled or manipulated. There were those who once believed they were essential to your world, perhaps the source of excitement or even security. They were accustomed to you needing them, being patient, doing everything to keep things steady. But they didn't realize a Taurus who has learned to stand firmly on their own will never return to beg for consistency or respect from those who once made them doubt their own worth or needs. This kind of inner freedom terrifies many, especially those who've never dared to rely solely on themselves. You've not only learned to stand, you've also built your own life without seeking applause. You don't require noise or drama to be acknowledged. Your quiet strength is the loudest echo. The day you stop trying to fit into someone else's unstable life is the day you began truly living your own grounded existence. You stopped forcing smiles through discomfort. You ceased the act of pretending things were okay. You don't need to prove your worthiness for love and respect. You simply live true to the deepest, most authentic part of your soul that craves peace and reliability. As you stop trying so hard, the old world drifts away, not because you push them out, but because your frequency, your vibration of stability has changed. When you no longer seek external validation or security, those who felt powerful when you were patiently enduring suddenly feel diminished in the peaceful, self-contained space you now create. They might feel envy, not because you are elevated, but because you no longer need them to feel complete or safe. You once required their approval or consistency to feel accepted, but now you understand that true value lies in how reliably you treat your own soul each day. Peace is not a destination. It's a state you enter when you no longer need to be seen or validated by unreliable sources to affirm your existence. They once thought you couldn't survive without their presence or input, but now you are thriving, living, not just existing, building a life that is more solid and fulfilling than ever. You don't blame, You don't complain. You don't harbor anger. And that quiet self-sufficiency is what worries them the most. No one dares to live that peacefully without carrying resentment inside, except those who have truly healed and found their center. You may walk alone at times, but you are not lonely. You are now walking with truth. The truth that you are enough, that you don't have to try twice as hard to receive half the respect or consistency you deserve. The truth that every effort to keep those who cannot stay steady only distances you from your own inner peace. When you realize this, the old doors will begin to close. Not to punish you, but to protect you. From places where you had to shrink or compromise your needs. From people who valued you only for your patience or reliability, and from your old self, the one who thought loyalty meant enduring disrespect. Now, you don't need to trade your peace for anything. You don't require permission to live your truth and honor your needs. You don't need anyone to comprehend your journey, to continue walking your path with quiet determination. The peace you now possess doesn't stem from their transformation. It arises from you no longer needing them for your stability. Taurus, your journey is reaching a pivotal moment where you are no longer affected by what others cannot provide. You realize you don't need much to be happy, but you do need the right things, and one of the most crucial is truth and inner security. So stay, because in the next part, you will perceive more clearly than ever, truth always has its own quiet power. When truth rises, you will be the only one still standing firm. After all you've endured, truth no longer frightens you. It's no longer a double-edged sword. It's the first ray of grounding light in a room where you once dwelled in the darkness of uncertainty. When the Sun card, representing clarity and vitality, or the World card, representing completion and wholeness, appears, I don't see someone who has merely stumbled and gotten back up. I see a soul that was once tested, now radiating the quiet sunlight of their own solid being. You no longer bow to instability, you no longer avoid confrontation when necessary, and you no longer run from your needs. You stand tall, solitary, yet proud and grounded, as if every storm you've weathered was merely a test of your quiet resilience. There are aspects of you, perhaps your deep need for security or your unwavering values, that were once buried deep, not because you feared facing them, but because you believed acknowledging them fully might make you seem difficult or demanding. Yet truth has a gentle way of revealing itself. It doesn't arrive until you're ready. It waits patiently until you are strong enough to see it not as an enemy, but as a compass on your journey. Today, you are strong enough. You no longer require anyone else to validate your truths or your needs. You don't need clarity from others, nor do you seek proof of their shortcomings. You've felt it all for a long time, through your intuition, through your heart, through the quiet frustrations you bore. And now, as the truth begins to unveil itself naturally, there's no need to resist or explain. You simply stand there, like someone who has always known and has long since decided to prioritize their own peace. Truth may not always be comfortable, but it always sets you free by grounding you in reality. It strips away the masks, rendering facades meaningless, and brings everything back to its essential nature. The miracle lies not just in your acceptance of truth, but in the quiet strength you exhibit while standing firm before it. Many people cannot endure this. They build lives on shifting sands, crafting images to be loved, covering up insecurities to be accepted. When truth arrives, it can sweep everything unstable away. But you are different. You once lived truthfully, loyally, even at a cost. You loved genuinely and steadfastly, even when taken for granted. You believed wholeheartedly in stability, even when faced with chaos. And now, when truth appears, it takes nothing essential from you. It simply confirms that you were always right to live authentically and honor your need for solid ground. Light is not something you seek outside of yourself. It's the steady glow you've been emitting quietly, from the times you didn't give up on your values, from the moments you chose what was right for you over what was easy, from the times you remained kind and dependable even when that wasn't returned. Taurus, you didn't just survive, you have been reborn in strength. You transformed every attempt to shake your foundation into the very experiences that rooted you deeper and lifted you higher. You are a reminder to others that stability can always be found within, even amidst external chaos, if we dare to build it. You embody the truth that no one can extinguish a soul that has chosen to live authentically and value its own peace. And you are the clearest evidence that in the end, truth and inner fortitude always prevail. So what within you was once hidden, perhaps a deep-seated need or a core value, that you are now ready to bring into the light and honor fully? What part of you, once seen as merely patient or even stubborn, do you now embrace as the most beautiful and strong aspect of who you are? I invite you to pause for a moment, take a deep breath, and ask yourself, is there a part of me waiting to be seen, accepted, and loved by me exactly as it is? Because, dear Taurus, you don't need everyone to understand you. You just need to stop rejecting your own fundamental needs. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to shout. You don't need to win arguments. Simply standing firm in your truth and your peace is enough to leave an indelible mark on those around you. Your existence, your peace, your quiet strength, they are already a powerful declaration. I have walked through instability, and I still choose to build my life on love and solid ground. People like you are often the ones who remain standing when every illusion collapses. If someone ever doubted your strength, left you feeling insecure, or hurt you with their inconsistency, then today, truth is clarifying everything. You don't need to utter a word. You don't need to do anything. Just be yourself, grounded and true, and the steady light you carry will do the rest. If you're wondering what's next on this journey, here's what you will deeply feel in the coming transitions. You will no longer view truth or your own needs with fearful eyes. Instead, you will gaze upon them gently, knowing that everything has its purpose in strengthening you. The reason you're still standing today is not necessarily because you are stronger than others in a conventional sense, but because you chose not to betray your own core self and your need for peace. Sometimes, that is the bravest choice one can make in this life. Thank you for staying until the end of this journey. I recognize that not everyone has the patience to fully engage with a healing process, but if you are still here, it signifies that a part of you is genuinely transforming and solidifying. I hope what you've just heard resonates deeply within you, serving as a whisper of validation you needed to hear again. A gentle nudge toward the wounded places that are starting to heal and become sources of strength. Taurus, never forget that you once navigated through darkness or uncertainty, perhaps feeling unseen or undervalued, and you were the one who lit the lamp of inner resilience to guide yourself out. There's no need for anyone else to acknowledge it. There's no need for recognition. But you know, and I know, and if you feel this video has helped you in any way on your journey toward greater inner stability, don't hesitate to share your thoughts below. Your words might illuminate the path or provide solid ground for another soul who feels lost or shaken. Until we meet again in the next journey, where we not only heal, but truly embrace life in peace, groundedness, and wholeness, just as you have been and are becoming.